The day my father tried to take my pharmacy license, I finally understood something I should have known much earlier. A man can teach you the oath by heart and still break every word of it. My father had made me memorize that oath when I was still too young to stand behind the counter without a step stool. He would point to the gold-framed words on the office wall and say, "Cora, this is what separates a pharmacist from a pill counter. We do the right thing when nobody is watching." For most of my life, I believed him. I believed him when he stayed late to deliver medicine to elderly patients who could not drive. I believed him when mothers came in with sick children and left calmer because Harold Bennett had explained the dosage 3 times and written it on the bottle in blue ink. I believed him when the town called him one of the last honest men on Main Street. Then a Medicare audit letter came in the mail, and everything my father had taught me turned into evidence against him. The letter was sitting on top of the morning mail when I unlocked Bennett Family Pharmacy. The pharmacy was still dark except for the soft light behind the prescription counter. The vaccine refrigerator hummed in the corner. The automatic blood pressure machine ticked once, then went quiet. The air smelled like rubbing alcohol, printer paper, and the faint vanilla candle my mother liked to keep near the register. My father usually handled anything from Medicare. Harold Bennett, town pharmacist, small business owner. Man who knew half the town by name and the other half by their blood pressure medication. But he was not in yet, so I opened it. At first, it looked routine. Another audit notice. Another packet of official language that made everything sound more complicated than it was. Then I reached the table. Brand name drugs billed. Generic drugs purchased. Claims that did not match the wholesaler records. A discrepancy large enough to make my hands go cold. I read the page again, then again. The words stayed exactly where they were. The letter was not accusing us outright. Government letters rarely do that at first, but I had been a pharmacist long enough to understand what it was saying. Someone had billed Medicare and other insurers for expensive brand-name medications while dispensing cheaper generics. Same patient, same medication class, same day, different money. I sat on the stool behind the consultation counter and listened to the refrigerator hum. I knew those drug names. I knew those purchase patterns. I knew the codes and bottles and invoices because my father had taught me all of it. He used to stand behind that same counter and hold up a bottle. "This is the brand," he would say. "This is the generic, same active ingredient, different cost. Insurance pays attention to that, so do we." I remembered every word. That was the problem. The front door chimed later that morning. My father came in brushing snow from his coat, humming under his breath like nothing in the world had shifted. "Morning, Cora Bean," he said. He had called me that since I was little. "Morning, Dad." "Anything good in the mail?" I looked at my bag. The audit letter was inside it, not in the drawer where we kept official correspondence. Inside my bag. "Just the usual," I said. "Insurance updates, wholesaler circulars." He nodded and went into the back office to make his terrible coffee. The same coffee he had been drinking since before I was born. The same back office where his pharmacy license hung on the wall beside the oath. The same office where he had once told me he built this place for me. I worked the rest of that day like nothing was wrong. I filled prescriptions. Answered questions, gave a flu shot, counseled an older woman about her blood thinner, Mrs. Patterson. She had known me since I was a child. She told me I held the bottle the same way my father did. I smiled. My hands were not steady. All day I kept thinking about the letter, not the exact amount, not the table. The pattern, cheap generic in the building, expensive brand on the claim. It was the kind of pattern you do not accidentally create over and over. That night, I took the letter out at my kitchen table. I lived above a bakery on Walnut Street. Most nights, the apartment smelled faintly like bread and old pipes. That night, it smelled like cold coffee and fear. I opened my laptop and logged into the pharmacy system. Then I sat there for a long time without clicking anything. I wanted it to be a mistake, a billing error, a bad data pull, a Medicare algorithm that had misunderstood something. Pharmacy billing is messy. Anyone who has worked behind a counter knows that. Insurance systems reject claims for reasons nobody can explain. Codes mismatch. Formularies change. Computers make ugly little problems and people call them compliance issues. But Medicare does not flag a large pattern for nothing, so I started checking. I cross-referenced claims against wholesaler purchases. At first, I checked only the records mentioned in the letter. Then I checked older ones, then more. The same thing kept appearing. Generics came into our pharmacy. Brand names went out on the claims. I kept stopping, starting over, checking my own work. I wanted to find the place where I had made a mistake. I did not find one. The pattern spread across several common medications. The kind almost every pharmacy fills every day. Cholesterol medicine, blood pressure medicine, diabetes medicine, inhalers, blood thinners, basic drugs, ordinary drugs. The kind people pick up on their way home from work or after a doctor visit, never imagining the bottle in their hand might be part of a lie. My father had always said numbers were clean if you respected them. These numbers were not clean. They were screaming. I requested wholesaler records from Maggie Chen, our distribution rep. She sent them without question. I had asked for purchase histories before. Inventory reconciliation was normal. Nobody had reason to worry, except me. I spent evenings at my kitchen table with the Medicare letter propped against the salt shaker. I worked with coffee that went cold and lights that stayed on too late. The bakery downstairs went quiet. The town went quiet. My apartment filled with paper. By the time I finished, I understood the fraud. I also understood something else. This had not started yesterday. It had been going on for years. Long enough that I had probably seen signs before and accepted my father's explanations because he was my father. I remembered once asking him about a claim that did not match an invoice. He laughed softly and called it a clerical error. "Computers make messes, Cora Bennett," he had said. "People clean them up." I believed him then. Now I wondered how many messes he had made and asked other people to clean. There was one thing nobody in my family knew. I had money saved in a separate account. Not a fortune, but enough to breathe if I needed to. I had also filed paperwork for a small compliance consulting company months earlier. Bennett Compliance Group. I told myself it was for someday. Maybe I would help independent pharmacies survive audits. Maybe I would leave the family business one day. Maybe I just wanted one thing with my name on it that did not belong to my father. At the time, I did not know why I needed an exit. Now I did. Still, I gave him a chance. I waited until the pharmacy closed and everyone else was gone. My brother Tyler left first. He worked the front counter and wore a white coat even though he was not a pharmacist. People said he looked like my father at that age. He liked hearing that. My mother finished the cash drawer, kissed my father on the cheek, and told me to come for dinner. Then she left too. My father was in the back office going over receipts. The door was half open. He was humming the same tune I could never place. I knocked on the frame. He looked up and smiled. "Cora Bennett, heading out." I placed the Medicare letter on his desk. I opened this. His smile did not disappear right away. That was the first thing I noticed. He picked up the letter, put on his reading glasses, and read it slowly. The room felt smaller than usual. Wood-paneled walls, old clock, pharmacy license, gold-framed oath. He finished reading. Then he made a small sound. "These audits happen," he said. "Medicare flags anything unusual. Half the time their own numbers are wrong." "The claims show brand name dispensing," I said. "The wholesaler records show generic purchases." He looked at me not like a father, like a man deciding how much his daughter knew. "I'll look into it," he said. His voice was calm, too calm. "I can help," I said. "No." The word came too fast. Then he softened his face. "I mean, don't worry about this. I'll call the wholesaler. It is probably a coding issue." But his hands were shaking when he folded the letter. Only slightly. Enough. He tucked it into his desk drawer. The drawer where he kept things he did not want anyone else touching. "Dad." I said I'll handle it. For a moment, the man behind his face changed. The warm pharmacist was gone. The father who cried when I came home after graduation was gone. Something harder looked out at me. Then he smiled again. "Go home, get some sleep. You look tired." I walked out into the cold with the red awning over the pharmacy flapping slightly in the wind. There was a tear in one corner I had never noticed before. That bothered me. Not because of the awning, because I had worked under it most of my life and still had not seen it. That night, I stopped asking whether the letter was real. I started building the file. Paper, not just digital records, paper I could hold, wholesaler invoices, claim summaries, screenshots, patient-level comparisons. Notes in my handwriting. My apartment became a map of my father's lies. The kitchen table was covered, then the floor, then the counter. The pattern was simple enough for a jury. Generic drugs purchased, brand drugs billed, difference pocketed over and over. A small lie repeated long enough to become a large theft. And yes, patients usually received the right medication. That was how my father would defend it. He would say nobody was harmed. He would say the insurance companies could afford it. He would say the pharmacy was squeezed by middlemen and bad reimbursement rates. He would say he did what he had to do to keep a small-town pharmacy alive. But the truth was sitting on my floor. He had billed for drugs he never bought. He had falsified claims, and he had taught me enough to catch him. I waited a few days before confronting him again. Maybe I needed time to grieve the man I thought he was. Maybe I was hoping he would come to me first. Maybe I still wanted to be his daughter before I became his witness. When the pharmacy closed again, I went into his office with the full folder. He looked up. This time, he did not call me Cora Bean. "I need to show you something," I said. I placed the folder on his desk. Not just the Medicare letter. Everything. The purchase records. The claims, the comparisons, the pattern. He opened it and looked at the first page for a long time. The old clock ticked on his desk. Then he closed the folder. "Where did you get the wholesaler records?" That was when I knew. Not "this is wrong." Not "let me explain." Not "Cora, I don't understand." "Where did you get them?" "Maggie sent them," I said. "You went behind my back." "You lied to me." His face hardened. "You don't understand how this business works." "I understand billing fraud." His eyes flashed. "Insurance companies squeeze us every day. Pharmacy benefit managers take their cut. The government changes rules whenever it wants. You think this town keeps a pharmacy because everything is fair. I did what I had to do to keep the doors open. You billed for drugs we did not buy. The patients got what they needed. They got medicine. That does not make the billing true." He stood. The oath of the pharmacist was right above his shoulder. I could not stop looking at it. "I built this place for you," he said. "No," I said. "You used that sentence to keep me loyal." That landed. For the first time, his face showed something like anger. "Who are you going to tell? The board, Medicare? You think people in this town will believe you over me? I am Harold Bennett. I have been taking care of these people since before you were born." He paused. Then he said the sentence that ended something in me. "You are just my daughter. That is all they will see." The office door opened. My mother stood there. She looked at the folder, then my father, then me. "Cora, what is going on?" I waited for my father to answer. He did not. My mother walked to his side and stood beside his chair. She did not look at the papers, not one page. That hurt more than I expected. Tyler appeared in the doorway too. His face was confused, then guarded. He looked at the folder, then at the oath on the wall, then anywhere except at me. "Tyler," my father said, "take your sister home." "I can drive myself." "Tyler, take her home." Tyler stepped toward me like he had been given a job. He still would not look at me. I picked up the folder. Nobody stopped me. I walked out of the pharmacy with years of evidence under my arm and no one in that building willing to stand beside me. A few weeks later, my father filed a complaint against my license. The letter came from the State Board of Pharmacy. I opened it standing at my kitchen counter, still wearing my coat. My father had accused me of falsifying dispensing records. He claimed I had manipulated the system to create the discrepancies. He said I was trying to damage his business and reputation. He had taken the exact fraud I found and pointed it at me. For a moment, I could not move. Then I sat down at the same table where I had built the case against him. My hands were perfectly still. That scared me more than shaking would have. My father was willing to destroy my career to save himself, not just reject me, not just call me disloyal, destroy me. My license was everything. Years of school, exams, rotations. Long nights, student debt, the white coat I had earned, not inherited. And now the man who taught me ethics was using the system to frame me. I called the board and asked how to respond. The woman on the phone was polite and neutral. She said the preliminary review could take time. She said I could keep practicing while they reviewed the complaint. She said I would be notified by mail. After I hung up, I made a clean copy of everything. The audit letter, the wholesaler records, the claim comparisons, the notes, the dates I had accessed files, the emails requesting records. I labeled the folder with my response. Then I waited. Waiting is strange when your life is being judged by people who do not know you. The pharmacy kept running without me. My father told people I was taking personal time. My mother did not call. Tyler sent one text. "You should have let Dad handle it." I deleted it. Mrs. Patterson called twice. She sounded worried. She asked when I was coming back because my father was not explaining her medications the way I did. I told her I was fine. That was a lie, but I could not tell an elderly woman who trusted my father that I was afraid he had built part of his reputation on false claims and then tried to blame me for noticing. Then Elena Ruiz texted me. I did not know the number. The message said she used to work at the pharmacy and needed to talk. She asked me not to tell Harold. We met at a diner outside town, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes burned before it reaches the cup. She kept her coat on the whole time. Elena had worked at Bennett Family Pharmacy for years. She had dark hair pulled back tightly and the tired eyes of someone who had spent too long being careful. "I started noticing things," she said, her hands wrapped around the coffee cup. "Not at first. At first, I thought I was making mistakes. I would fill the prescription correctly. Generic drug, correct dose, correct count. Then later, I would see the claim and it would show something else. Brand name, higher price." She looked down. "I asked your father once." "What did he say?" "He told me billing was none of my concern. He said I should count pills and leave claims to him." She swallowed. Then my hours got cut. I closed my eyes for a second. I had worked near Elena for years and never noticed. I had been busy giving vaccines, doing consultations, trying to become the pharmacist my father said he built the store for. Meanwhile, 3 feet away, someone else had seen the same wrong thing and paid for asking. "I kept a log," Elena said. She pulled a composition notebook from her bag. Cheap, worn, blackened white cover. The kind sold in drugstores every fall. She pushed it across the table. I opened it. Her handwriting was small and careful. Every shift, every prescription she filled, drug name, dose, quantity, notes in the margin. Some entries had little stars beside them. "Those are the ones I remember not matching later," she said. There were many stars, too many. "This matters," I said. "I don't know if it is enough." "It is." Her eyes lifted. "Why are you helping me?" She gave a tired little laugh. "Because I heard what he did, the complaint against your license, and I thought, if Harold Bennett would do that to his own daughter, what would he have done to me?" She said she would testify if needed. Then she left before I could thank her. The bell over the diner door jingled as she stepped into the cold. I sat there with her notebook in my hands. For the first time in weeks, I did not feel alone. The board investigator was named David Park. He did not waste words. He met me in a plain office with beige walls, gray carpet, and a file cabinet that looked older than both of us. He had the calm face of someone who had learned not to react too quickly. I brought him everything. My file. Elena's notebook, the Medicare letter, the wholesaler records, the claim comparisons. The complaint my father had filed against me, David read quietly. Page by page. He asked questions that cut straight through the noise. When did I first access the records? Who sent the wholesaler data? Could I prove the pharmacy system entries were unchanged? Did anyone else have admin access? Had I taken originals or copies? I answered every question. Then he opened Alina's notebook. He read longer than he had read anything else. Finally, he looked up. This complaint against you is starting to look retaliatory. I did not say anything. I was afraid if I spoke, the relief would sound like crying. David continued. We will need to interview Ms. Ruiz. We will also need to subpoena pharmacy system logs, wholesaler confirmations, and claim history directly from payers. If the records match what you provided, the focus of this investigation changes. To my father. He held my eyes. Yes. The board interviewed Alina. Then another former technician came forward. Then another. It turned out Alina had not been the only one who noticed. She had only been the one who kept the best records. One technician remembered claim reversals happening after audits were announced. Another remembered my father locking the office when certain reports printed. A former part-time cashier said patients sometimes complained their insurance showed higher-cost drugs than what the bottle label suggested, but they were told it was just how insurance displayed things. Then there was Mrs. Patterson. I did not want to involve her. She was elderly, forgetful, and kind. But her name appeared in the flagged claims more than once. David asked if she would be willing to talk. I called her myself. She invited me to her house and made tea neither of us drank. Her kitchen smelled like lemon cleaner and toast. Prescription bottles sat in a plastic basket on the table. When I explained, gently, that some of her claims may have been billed incorrectly, she frowned. Is that why my plan kept getting strange? She asked. What do you mean? She showed me letters from her drug plan, coverage changes, higher costs, notices she did not understand. She had saved them in a shoebox because, as she put it, your father always told me papers matter. The irony nearly broke me. She had skipped doses once when her costs rose unexpectedly. Not for long, but long enough to scare her daughter. My father's fraud had not just hurt Medicare. It had reached a patient's kitchen table. It had made an old woman wonder whether she could afford medicine she needed. I sat in my car afterward and cried for the first time. Not because of my father, because Mrs. Patterson had trusted us, trusted me, and I had been standing inside the same pharmacy while the lie moved around her. The investigation became formal. My father tried to fight it. Of course he did. He gave statements about small-town pharmacies being crushed by insurance companies. He said the system was broken. He said billing was complicated. He said I had misunderstood. He said Alina was disgruntled. He said former technicians were confused. He said everyone wanted to blame Harold Bennett because Harold Bennett was visible. He did not say he was sorry. My mother finally called me one evening. Her voice was flat. Your father is under terrible stress. So am I. You could have come to us as family. I did. No, she said. You came with accusations. I came with records. She was quiet. Then she said, this pharmacy fed you. I looked around my apartment. The papers, the files, the license frame on my wall. No, I said. The pharmacy fed us. The fraud protected him. She hung up. Tyler was worse. He came to my apartment one night and stood in the hallway because I would not invite him in. You think you are better than us because you went to pharmacy school, he said. No. You always looked down on me. No, Tyler. I looked away from what I did not want to see. He flinched. That place was supposed to be mine too, he said. It still could have been, if Dad had run it honestly. You are destroying it. Dad did that before I opened the letter. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, Mom says you are dead to him. I nodded. It hurt, but not as much as he wanted it to. Then tell him he should stop using my name in his complaint. Tyler left without another word. The hearing took place in Columbus in a room that looked too plain for the thing it was about to do. Long table, microphones, state seal on the wall, 3 board members, a court reporter. My father on one side with an attorney, me on the other with David Park and a folder that had become heavier than paper. My father wore his best suit. He looked tired but still respectable. The kind of man people instinctively trust. Silver hair. Clean tie. Pharmacy pin on his lapel. My mother sat behind him. Tyler beside her. Neither of them looked at me. David presented first. He did not make speeches. He showed records, wholesaler purchases, insurance claims, system access logs, patient-level comparisons, technician notes, Alina's notebook, former employee statements. Then Mrs. Patterson's letters. That changed the room. Before that, the case had been numbers. After that, it was a woman at a kitchen table trying to understand why her medicine costs made no sense. My father's attorney argued that patients received therapeutically equivalent medication. He said the pharmacy had not endangered anyone by switching from brand to generic. One board member leaned forward and said, "That is not the question. The question is whether the pharmacy billed for medication it did not dispense." The attorney stopped. My father looked down. Then Alina testified. She was nervous. Her voice shook at first, but she kept going. She described filling prescriptions correctly, then seeing claims that did not match. She described asking questions. She described losing hours after she asked too many. She described keeping a notebook because she did not know what else to do with the truth. My father did not look at her. Then I testified. I told them about opening the letter, about checking the records, about confronting my father, about the complaint he filed against my license, about the oath on his office wall. I tried not to look at him. Then one of the board members asked, "Why did you not report immediately after the first discrepancy years ago?" That question found the softest part of me. I looked down at my hands. "Because he was my father," I said. The room went quiet. "Because he taught me everything I knew. Because I wanted him to be right. Because I thought if Harold Bennett said it was a clerical error, then maybe it was. And because sometimes family makes you doubt the thing you would have seen clearly in anyone else." No one spoke for a moment. Then the questioning continued. My father was called last. He began the way I knew he would. Small pharmacies were dying. Insurance companies were unfair. Reimbursements were broken. He had kept Main Street served when chains had left nearby towns. He had delivered medicine in snowstorms. He had helped patients who could not pay. All of that was true. That was the terrible part. Bad people are easy. My father was not easy. He had done good things. He had also committed fraud. Both could be true. Then a board member asked him directly, "Did you authorize claims for brand-name medications when the pharmacy dispensed generics?" My father looked at the table. For the first time that day, he looked old. He said, "I did what I believed was necessary to keep the pharmacy open." No one moved. It was not a full confession, but it was enough. The board dismissed the complaint against me. My license was cleared. Then they turned to my father. His license was suspended pending final sanctions. The case was referred for further review. Repayment would be required. Bennett Family Pharmacy was placed under emergency oversight and later sold to an independent owner approved by the board. The pharmacy did not close. That mattered. The town still needed it. But Harold Bennett no longer stood behind the counter. When the hearing ended, my mother helped him stand. Tyler gathered papers like that would make him useful. My father walked past me. For 1 second, I thought he might stop. Say my name, say anything. He did not. My mother did stop. She looked at me like she had never seen me before. Not with hate. Not exactly. More like confusion. As if she could not understand how the daughter they raised had become the person who refused to protect them from consequences. Then she said, "You got what you wanted." I looked past her at my father's back. "No," I said. "I lost what I wanted." She did not answer. They left together. I stayed seated until the room emptied. David closed his folder and stood. "Your documentation saved your license," he said. Then he paused. "And probably some patience." From David, that was almost emotional. A few weeks later, I went back to Bennett Family Pharmacy. Not to work, just to see it. The red awning had been repaired. The new owner had kept the Bennett name for a while, mostly so patients would not feel like they had lost another familiar thing. But my father's license was gone from the wall. The oath was gone too. The new pharmacist was kind. She recognized me immediately and looked nervous. "You can come in," she said. "It is still a pharmacy." I almost laughed at that. It was still a pharmacy. Same shelves, same waiting chairs, same refrigerator hum, same blood pressure machine in the corner, but the back office door was open. That was new. Mrs. Patterson was at the counter picking up a refill. She saw me and came over slowly, holding her purse against her side. "I heard you are not coming back," she said. "Not here." She nodded, then she took my hand. "You did right, dear." That undid me more than the hearing had. I squeezed her hand and said, "I should have seen it sooner." She shook her head. "Maybe, maybe not, but you saw it." After that, I opened Bennett Compliance Group for real. At first, it was just me in a rented office above a dentist's clinic. One desk, one printer, one file cabinet. The carpet smelled like dust no matter what I did. I helped small pharmacies prepare for audits. I checked billing systems. I trained techs to document concerns. I taught owners how to survive reimbursement pressure without lying. Some called because they were scared. Some called because they were honest. A few called because they thought I would teach them how not to get caught. Those calls ended quickly. Elena came to work with me part-time. She handled documentation reviews and technician interviews. She was good at hearing the small hesitation in someone's voice when they had seen something and been told not to say it. She kept the old composition notebook in her desk, not because we needed it anymore, because it reminded her she had not imagined the truth. Tyler did not speak to me for a long time. Then one afternoon, he sent a short message. "Mom sold the house." I stared at it for a while, then another message came. "Dad is not doing well." I did not answer right away. There are some doors you do not reopen just because someone knocks. Eventually, I wrote back, "I am sorry." That was all I had. My father never apologized, not directly. A letter came months later. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Strong, slanted, familiar. Inside was the framed oath from his office. No note, just the oath. The glass was cracked in one corner. I sat on my office floor for a long time with it in my lap. I wanted to throw it away. I wanted to hang it up. I wanted to be the kind of daughter who could forgive easily and the kind of pharmacist who could forget nothing. I was neither. In the end, I took it to a frame shop and had the glass replaced. Then I hung it in my office. Not because it belonged to my father, because it belonged to the work. Now, when young pharmacists come to me for compliance training, I make them read it, not out loud, not like my father did. I let them read it quietly. Then I tell them, the oath is easy when everyone is watching. It only matters when telling the truth costs you something. Sometimes they nod like they understand. Most of them do not. Not yet. One evening, after a long day of audit reviews, I stayed late in the office. The street below was dark. The dentist downstairs had already locked up. Elena had gone home. The printer was quiet. I stood in front of the oath and looked at my reflection in the glass. I could still see my father in my hands, the way I held bottles, the way I checked labels twice, the way I counted without losing track. Mrs. Patterson had been right. I did have his hands, but they were mine now. My phone buzzed, a message from a small pharmacy owner in another town. "Thank you. We found the billing issue before it became a disaster." I read it twice. Then I looked back at the oath. My father used to say he built Bennett Family Pharmacy so I would have something to come back to. He was wrong. He built a place I had to walk away from. Then he broke it badly enough that I had to build something cleaner with the pieces. I turned off the office lights, locked the door, and stepped into the cold evening with my own keys in my hand. For the first time in months, I did not feel like Harold Bennett's daughter. I felt like Cora Bennett, pharmacist, compliance advocate, the woman who opened the letter and did not look away